First, we go to Munich because the airport has been the latest in a series of similar incidents of drone activity that has massively disrupted European aviation in the past 2 weeks. The first sighting in and around Munich was 9:30 last night, local time. Shortly after that, air traffic control was restricted, then suspended operations. 17 flights in total were disrupted. Around 3,000 people provided with beds and camps, blankets and food as well. Another 15 flights were also diverted around the region. It's led to a big debate about how to handle the drones in the immediacy. Markus Söder, the Premier of Bavaria, which Munich is in the capital of, on social media says police need to get the power to shoot down these drones. Then in Brussels, the Belgian Defence Minister said this morning it's opened an investigation into several drones flying over a military base at Elsenborn near the German border. Who's behind it? Well, Denmark's intelligence services assess Russia is conducting hybrid warfare against the West, and there's a similar thread we're seeing in recent days. The Kremlin denies involvement. Let's go to Nick Holdsworth, our correspondent in Berlin. Great to see you tonight, Nick. Bring us up to date with the airport. I believe it's open again.
Yeah, the airport's been operating again since this morning. I think the first flight to take off was to Varna Airport in Bulgaria. Basically, flights have more or less got back to normal. It's a relatively busy airport, but quite small. But obviously, being close to Munich, which is one of Germany's richest cities, it's well used, it has good connections, and obviously the disruption was pretty serious. The police are saying that last night when those drones were spotted, it was hard to tell quite what sort of drones they were. It was dark already at 9:30 p.m. and the airport was closed overnight as a precaution, as you've just said. A few thousand people affected, but it looks like it's back up and operating again. The question now really is one of political will in how to deal with this. We've got the Interior Minister, Alexander Dobrindt, telling reporters today during the German Unity celebrations in Saarbrücken, where French President Macron was the guest of honour, that we are in a race between the threat from drones and the defence against drones. And he's looking at civil aviation legislation to see whether they can change that law to allow what the Bavarian Premier Markus Söder is saying, to allow the police and the military to shoot down these drones. Now, obviously, one has to be very careful shooting down objects in the sky above airports, above urban areas. Depending upon the size of those flying objects, they can cause considerable damage depending on whether they're armed or not. Of course, we don't know about that. But this really is becoming a very pressing issue, and there's a meeting of European interior ministers in Munich tomorrow. That was billed as a meeting to discuss migration. We've got the EU Internal Affairs and Migration Commissioner Magnus Brunner in attendance. It's now likely to be more of an interior ministry summit on how Europe as a whole can deal with this increasing problem of drones appearing over civilian and military infrastructure in the last couple of weeks.
And there are questions that we're asking, the questions the investigators will be asking. Were these individual actors, these drones, were they linked to the Kremlin? Were they linked to the Belgian military base as well? And as a former Russia correspondent as well, Nick, you'll be well aware of allegations going towards the Kremlin. Are the security services being careful in what they say in terms of attributing where they think this is started? Are they simply saying nothing right now to the origin?
The Germans aren't really pointing fingers. The Danes have. We've heard from the Danish Prime Minister saying that she suspects that the drones over Copenhagen and other airports in Denmark recently were of Russian origin. We've had Vladimir Putin joking about this, saying that perhaps he should just give up flying drones over Denmark. I think the Russian media's enjoying this because they see the discomfort of Europeans. I think that Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is probably correct that Russia is just pushing the envelope. They're checking to see what sort of response they get from the West. Now, this may not translate to some serious plan for the Russians to attack NATO countries. Vladimir Putin will be very aware that if he does that, Article 5 of the NATO treaty will be called upon collective defence, and he doesn't really want to be fighting Europe when he's still trying to win a war in Ukraine after nearly 4 years of warfare. But certainly the Russians are known to use hybrid warfare, and this kind of discomfort approach, let's just put them on a back foot. It's very much the sort of the judo attitude that Putin's already had. I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Russians were behind this, because it takes a state actor to coordinate such activities and to keep it quiet. I mean, where are these drones coming from? Nobody says, I saw my neighbour going out with a few drones in the back of his car. So it's obviously a fairly well planned operation.